Hi, welcome to the Crypto Republic. Before we begin today, if you're serious about staying ahead in this once-in-a-lifetime financial shift, make sure you like this video, drop a comment, and subscribe to the Crypto Republic. Hello, XRP Army, and welcome back to the Crypto Republic, your go-to channel for the latest high-energy updates in digital assets. Before we get started with today's business, make sure to smash that like button, ring that bell, and subscribe to the Crypto Republic, bringing you updates every day at 9 a.m., noon, and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just a quick reminder, this video is for educational purposes only. This is not financial advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. Today, we're diving into something absolutely massive. The DTCC just spoke, and what they're saying has huge implications for XRP, Ripple, and the future of the entire financial system. If you've been following the space, you already know that 2025 was a turning point. Before we break this down, I just want to thank everyone who takes the time to like, subscribe, and share these videos and comment. Your engagement helps get this information in front of more people, and I love learning with everybody. Your support allows me to bring these deep dive and high-value insights to the entire crypto community abroad. But what just happened is the green light for something even bigger. Tokenizing every single asset in the world. And yeah, I said every single asset. Stocks, bonds, ETFs, real estate, even fine art, all moving on blockchains eventually. I want you to imagine walking into a museum in 2030, where every painting, every rare collectible is digital and tracked and tradable instantly on-chain. That's the world we're building. And while it's not happening overnight, the groundwork is being laid right now. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end, when I go into one of my famous rants that everyone likes, I'm really going to tie this into a lot of things that we've been going over in the last couple of videos, our maps, the new illustration we put in today, so stay tuned for this. We're talking $100 trillion in assets moving from the traditional financial system into a digital on-chain future. Now, I want to be clear. This isn't about short-term price actions, ladies and gentlemen. This is about the shift in rails that move money globally. And if you understand what's coming, you'll see why XRP is positioned in a very interesting spot. I want you to check this out for a second. This is a once-in-a-lifetime generation shift. And if you're paying attention, you can see it before the mainstream media does, ladies and gentlemen. Seriously, when you zoom out, this is really breathtaking. Let's look at the current state of tokenization. Let's look at where we're at right now. Tokenization has been slowly gaining traction for years. But by 2025, it made it obvious. This is no longer an experiment. Right now, the total value of assets on-chain is still tiny. I mean in the billions, which sounds huge until you compare it to the trillions that will eventually move on-chain, ladies and gentlemen. For context, the current figure for tokenized real-world assets sits around 400 billion total. But that amount that really matters, the high-impact value is closer to 19 billion. That's minuscule compared to what's coming, ladies and gentlemen. It's crazy to think about. Think of it like the early days of electricity in the 1800s. Cities had a few light bulbs here and there, but most homes were still dark. Fast forward a few decades, and electricity powered everything. That's where tokenization is right now. Tiny today, opaque tomorrow. Every asset class will eventually live on-chain, being traded 24/7, 365 days a year, with decentralized finance protocols providing liquidity, efficiency, and accessibility like we've never seen before. Right now, most networks don't even have 1 billion in tokenized assets yet. Even the XRP Ledger with over 440 million is tiny in comparison. That's the part of the beauty. The runway is enormous, and the growth potential is staggering. If you're new to crypto, this might sound abstract, but trust me, this is how early we actually are. The opportunity ahead is literally massive. There's a lot of major players confirming the trend. Let's talk about the big names shaping the movement. Months ago, JP CEO openly stated, "We've always been using technology to do a better job for clients. Tokenization will be no different." He also emphasized blockchain is real, faster, and cheaper, and works in both permissioned and permissionless forms. Real-world asset tokenization is inevitable. Not that long after that, JP Morgan launched its first tokenized money market fund, starting with 100 million on-chain using Ethereum. Yes, Ethereum is currently the leader in tokenized assets. But that's not the end game, ladies and gentlemen. Think of Ethereum as the testing ground. Over time, projects are starting to migrate, moving to Hedera, Algorand, Stellar, and yes, the XRP Ledger. Imagine a young trader in 2026 logging in to move assets instantly across chains. Instead of waiting 3 days for settlement, For someone like that, XRP isn't just a token, it's a time machine for money. Brian Armstrong, Coinbase CEO, also recently said tokenization is going to reinvent finance. Everything that can be tokenized will be. It's much better for the end user. Real-time settlement, improved liquidity, and accessible, higher efficiency by reducing bureaucracy and friction. Here's the takeaway. We're seeing real institutional adoption, not hype. When the largest banks, asset managers, and even the SEC start confirming tokenization as the future, that's when the real shift begins. The value being moved on-chain will dwarf today's figures. And XRP is perfectly positioned for this evolution. I want you to think of Ethereum as like the first paved road. XRP is the bullet train that will eventually take the freight and passengers where they need to go, faster, cheaper, and more efficiently. Larry Fink, BlackRock CEO, on stage with Coinbase added, "We're partnering to tokenize funds and make them more accessible. This is how finance evolves for the digital era." Quick recap, JP Morgan, BlackRock, NASDAQ, Swift. The big names are all moving in this direction, ladies and gentlemen. Let this sink in, okay? Let this sink in. These aren't small experiments. These are signals of what's coming next. I want to talk about the XRP Ledger and its unique position. Why XRP, ladies and gentlemen, why not Ethereum or another network? The XRP Ledger is built for speed, efficiency, and low-cost settlement. It's uniquely suited for real-world asset tokenization, with built-in features like SPVs, permissioned ledgers, AMMs, and lending protocols. Marcus Samir from Ripple explained that XRP Ledger's architecture makes it ideal for RWAs, real-world assets. And remember, this isn't hypothetical. XRP is already handling hundreds of millions in tokenized assets, and that number is only going to grow. I want you to imagine an estate with hundreds of properties being tokenized on XRP. A single investor could own fractions of these properties instantly, in real time, anywhere in the world. That's the power, folks, of tokenization. Here's a side note for some clarity. XRP isn't trying to compete with Ethereum. It's carving out a specialized role. Think of it as a supersonic train alongside traditional railroads. Faster, cheaper, and able to handle huge volume. We're talking about hundreds of trillions in assets, eventually moving on-chain. And XRP is ready. Even though some remain bearish, the long-term story is extremely strong. Look, check this out. If you want the early mover advantage, XRP is one of the most interesting plays, in my personal opinion, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, and this is my opinion and the opinion of our organization, that people that retain us. Okay, it's not financial advice. Don't underestimate the runway. I want to talk about the DTCC announcement. The big news. The DTCC is starting tokenization, ladies and gentlemen. This is awesome. They hold 100 trillion in assets and are bringing them onto blockchain. This is the massive Black Swan event that's happening, ladies and gentlemen. They hold 100 trillion in assets and are bringing them onto blockchain. This isn't a small pilot. This is infrastructure level adoption. Here's a direct quote from DTCC CEO. The industry is now moving at a pace to tokenize real-world assets. Assets are software. We'll be the facilitator or enabler for those industries to use those tokenized assets in a way that they think is best for them and ultimately their clients. They'll tokenize ETFs, indexes, fixed income, securities, and eventually make these deployable across multiple blockchains. The goal? Programmable access, tradable in real time, 24/7, ladies and gentlemen. Here's a historical analogy for you. Remember when FedWire was introduced in the 1970s? Suddenly, banks could transfer massive amounts of money electronically instead of by courier. The DTCC tokenization is like that, but on steroids and global scale. The benefits are highlighted: operational excellence, faster, more reliable settlements, cost optimization, reducing overhead and inefficiencies, flexible in reach, deployable across multiple networks, 24/7 capital assets, ladies and gentlemen, real-time liquidity, perspective check. Imagine 100 trillion in assets settling instantly and transparently. Mind-blowing. What's future implications? What does this mean for investors? The focus is shifting away from short-term price swings, ladies and gentlemen. Soon we'll watch the global financial system digitize. Everything is moving faster. Everything is becoming digital, from fiat to complex instruments. XRP right now is in the middle. Networks will compete, yes, but those that can scale secure and settle efficiently will lead. Picture a small startup in 2030, issuing tokenized shares to investors worldwide, without the red tape of traditional finance. XRP makes this possible. The momentum isn't theoretical, ladies and gentlemen. This is happening now. Tokenized ETFs, RWAs, institutional adoption, SEC confirmations. We're witnessing a once-in-a-lifetime and a generational shift. Zoom out for a second with me. This is the early mover advantage in our opinion. This is not financial advice. This is just our opinion. In the next 5 years, it will decide who dominates the on-chain economy, okay? So to wrap this up, 2025 was the green light. DTCC is moving forward. XRP is positioned perfectly, and tokenization isn't a concept. It's happening. This isn't just crypto. It's the entire world digital. Just like the internet changed communication and commerce, tokenization is changing how money moves globally. And XRP is ready. If you want to ride this wave intelligently, focus on the long-term technological applications, the network constantly evolving, and projects solving real-world problems. 5 years from now, in my opinion, in our professional opinion, we'll look back at 2025 and 2026 as the turning point in financial history. Ladies and gentlemen, what's happening over in Asia is so breathtaking, and we're amazed that the mainstream media and legacy medias are not covering any of this. There was blockbuster bombshell news last night. Hong Kong is accelerating efforts to build itself into an international hub for gold trading, storage, clearing, and risk management, as the government moves to formalize a service gold market ecosystem anchored in physical infrastructure and financial market connectivity. Okay, supply chains are now completed, payment chains are ready, metals pricing, power has moved sufficiently to the east. Now the BRICS make it official. We put in a diagram today for everyone to see how gold is going to be tokenized, settled in Shanghai. Very quietly, the BRICS have put into play why they're hoarding gold, ladies and gentlemen. Why they're holding gold. And this isn't going to change, okay? I've been on the phones nonstop explaining this. Now, for us, this is the culmination of the last 3-4 years of us explaining why they were hoarding gold and metals, right? So to me, this is kind of the greatest, exoneration of what we've been saying and having to write letters to clients and memos and updates about why we were doing things for the last 3 to 4 years so that people didn't want to basically smash their head against the wall, drill a hole in their hand when the news was against them, because it's manifesting itself right now. So now you see, and I got to stop for a second, and I see everyone talk about this, and it blows my mind. BRICS is attacking the dollar. I'm gonna weave all this in. They're attacking the dollar now, right? So I see SWIFT didn't talk about this network. SWIFT didn't talk about that network. SWIFT hasn't even gotten into the game until now. They're so far behind. They better latch on to somebody who's moving forward, or we're cooked. But that's why Ripple and XRP made the move into G Treasury, because right now this entire maneuver, with gold is the biggest settlement attack against the U.S. Treasury market. The BRICS are trying, again, if you look at the diagram that we put in, they're trying to attack the Treasury settlement market right now. And Ripple, with their hindsight, and Ripple with their innovation, Ripple doing everything, got into the Treasury market with the acquisition of G Treasury. So to me, I want to give them a salute. Bravo, that hat tip. I mean, who could see that coming? They've been looking at this forever. This is great, right? As far as I'm concerned, okay? But while we continue to say this ledger sucks, this blockchain is no good, I like this, I like that, the BRICS in the unit, they're playing for keeps. They just made this official, okay? And you're not even hearing it reported anywhere in Western civilization. All of this is happening in Asia every night. I mean, I spend half my time in Singapore in our office over there. So I've been watching this happen for 5 to 10 years. They've been doing this. That's why they're hoarding metals. And if you look at, gold, the floor in gold may be around 4,000. It may never drop ever again because they're hoarding it for settlement. They're going to use it for settlement because very quietly you're seeing exchanges close down and change how they're doing settlement right now quietly. Nobody's paying attention right now, okay? So this is the BRICS unit. This is their attack on the U.S. dollar in the Treasury market. And who's standing in the way? Who's the only solution? And as far as I'm concerned, who is the general patent that's going to come to probably save everything? Save the 101st? XRP and Ripple, because they're involved in the Treasury market already. So when you step back and you see everything we're talking about, everywhere we're going, our research, our recce, the macro, the why, the who, the when, why everything is changing and no one's paying attention, this is happening. So ladies and gentlemen, when you're going home for the holidays, New Year's, and you're going to be sitting there with relatives and you want to explain to them about what's happening with digital works, I hope that you can use some of this conversation to chime in and help educate certain people about where the world is going, okay? I've been on the phone since midnight Eastern Standard Time, talking nonstop about what's happened and why. So, as far as I'm concerned, the DTCC has no choice but to get involved and do this now. Whether they want to or not, this is happening, okay? We have to have an answer on the west side of the tranche, the west trench, okay? To the east side, the east tranche, the east trench. We have to have an answer to what they're doing because they're putting in play a financial coordinated attack on the commodity pricing market, the commodity delivery market, how everything is happening, and the U.S. Treasury, okay? This is going on right now, okay? And this is what we call the commodity wars, the crypto wars is happening now. Now, our Patreon is launching this week. Anyone who wants to listen to more of the rants and go really deep into why this is happening, please do sign up, okay? But this is happening, ladies and gentlemen. That's why they wanted everyone to sell their metals very, very cheap in the moments coming up to this. If you look at the silver market, you look at gold, it's been on a sick tear, a rip-your-face-off rally. People are getting cut up like sushi, and the people of the convention, they're sitting there with the Gucci power. They're so Gucci, forget about it. They're loving the world right now because they followed their plan. So when I talk to you about the secret sauce, the recipe, the secret sauce is everything we're putting in right now. So how do you answer this, you might ask? Okay? You know? You play both ends against the middle, in my professional opinion. This is what we're doing, okay? You begin to hoard the same way that they wanted everyone selling their metals very inexpensive to hoard it. Now you can't get metals out of certain regions anymore, right? You just can't. Well, when you see retail throwing in the towel right now with XRP and all these other coins, right? The big ETF companies are just acquiring all of it. They're buying it from you for cheap. You know, you don't want to use leverage. If you haven't been trading for 5 to 10 years, I would tell you stay away from leverage. Even people who've been trading all their life, even like myself, leverage sometimes is the snake that bites you in the hand, right? Okay, don't get me wrong. But this is happening now, ladies and gentlemen. And this why the DTCC and other people's hands are forced. Whether they're going to come out and tell you right away that this is happening, they got to answer what's happening with the BRICS and the unit and the whole attack in the commodities market, the delivery market. Everything's happening in Asia. And to me, we're so early. I can now come back and say that how early we really are in this digital landscape with these cryptos. We're so early with XRP. The same way for the last 3 to 4 years, I've been telling people in metals, we're so early about what's happening and why that you just want to keep putting this stuff away. And believe me, you'll read our letters and our commentaries, and if whatever fun other people you got to answer to, you'll just read this to them, say it came from us, they'll say it came from them. Good, you good to go because we know our stuff. We've been here forever, okay? So the point of the matter is we're trying to bring you to the retail level what funds of funds and institutional players are hearing and why they retain people like us and my organization to hear this, okay? The voice of reason. We're sitting in the boardroom not to tell people what they want, to tell them what's going to happen. And after 4 or 5 years of accumulating everything, there's nothing left in the ground to be that's not spoken for, okay? There's nothing left. So the only answer is now, as the chessboard unfolds in front of us, you got to be in this for the long run. You're going to look back on these moments. And I always write in the comments, this is going to be like turbulence on a plane ride that we're going on vacation. Now, more than anything, you got to have the conviction because the unit ain't slowing down. Whether this is going to work, I have no idea. But I know that people that get into something very early before anyone knows about it, that's the first mover advantage, okay? So when I tell you XRP is like the oil in the ground, that's my analogy here. We own what's in the ground. The domestic consumption and distribution is going to be further discovered downstream. But you got to see what's happening. The unit and BRICS, they're not taking any pictures. So why people say, I don't like this, Swift didn't say that. Swift didn't say this. Swift didn't say that. If you're in their office, you got to be saying, I can't believe it. They're actually going for it now. That the BRICS and the unit, they don't really care. They're tired of being sanctioned. They're tired of being pushed around. They got pushed into the corner so much, they don't even care what happened. So they went with something that we created, Bretton Woods. They said, we got something for you. Look what we got now, okay? And they're going to hoard every commodity that they can, especially precious metals, to create some kind of brand new order of clearing, with gold being the standard unit to attack the U.S. Treasury system, okay? And as far as I'm concerned, there's only one crypto in the neighborhood that had the foresight to get involved in treasuries: Ripple, G-Treasury. So, I could go on and for this, but I know we're late getting these videos out, and Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, you got to have that conviction right now. You cannot get cut up like sushi right now. You do not want to throw the towel in. You do not want to have blood in the streets. You got to have the conviction. We spoke about this, Jesse Livermore, position sizes. But as far as I'm concerned, I've been telling people all day, G Treasury and Ripple is like Patton in the Third Army going to save the 101st because nobody's paying attention. People see what's happening in the commodities market. People in the know what's happening. So, as far as I'm concerned, Ripple and XRP had a plan. They're presenting it right now. But don't get this twisted, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, don't get this twisted. With DTCC and everyone else on the Western tranche is forced to make moves right now. Okay? So, with that being said, I want you to have a great day. Always stay emotionless. Watch XRP closely. This could be the defining moment. This content is for informational entertainment purposes only and should not be taken as financial advice. Always do your own research and consult a licensed financial advisor before making investment decisions. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the game is changing, and those who understand it first will benefit the most. Make sure you're on the right side of it. You have two choices. You can be like the crowd, reacting after the move, rationalizing why they missed it, telling themselves they never let it happen again, or you can be the one who saw behind the curtain, the one who understood the infrastructure shift, the one who positioned early, not randomly, but intentionally. Because some moments in history are loud, but the ones that change everything are quiet, right up until the moment they're not. And this is one of those moments. Do not blink because the world is distracting you with noise while XRP continues developing behind the scenes and building momentum in the broader digital asset landscape. Stay sharp, stay informed, accumulate knowledge. Your move now will be remembered. This is not the end of the story. This is just the beginning. If this opened your eyes, smash that like button, ring the bell, and leave a comment with your thoughts. Turn on notifications, and most importantly, subscribe to Crypto Republic. We break down major global banking trends, shaping digital assets today, giving you context, clarity, and research you can use. Don't just watch history happen. Stay informed, stay ahead, and stay in the Republic.